Um, Welcome to the World Storytelling Cafe, and it is Friday. Therefore, it is stories for children of all ages from 0 to 100. And we have with us the amazing, sitting in Cambridge most likely, looking very splendid. We have Marion Leeper tonight with stories. Now, Marion, have you got a few stories for us?
I have one or two, yes.
Yes.
I tell you what, in the Botanic Gardens, and the leaves were all over the place. So most of my stories got leaves in them.
So we'll leave the program to you then. Sorry, but irresistible. As Baba sees not whether someone else has got to do the puns. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from the Ensemble Company, please put your hands together and welcome into the world and for her stories, Marion Leeper.
Oh, it's very special.
Over to you, Marion.
Thank you. Well, this is my first children's thing for the World Storytelling Cafe. So I've chosen my favorite story. It's the first story I ever told. And I have a book. I was given it by a Russian friend. And that's in Russian, and it says Telemok, which means the pretty little cottage. And I have a lovely Russian friend called Katya. And whenever she heard me tell this story, she used to laugh like a drain, because in Russia, in Moscow, Telemok is the name of the cheapest, tackiest fast food chain you can imagine. And you get these burgers from a cottage that looks a bit like this, but it's made out of plastic. And apparently the burgers taste of plastic as well. So this story is dedicated to Katya. And Katya she's not in Russia at the moment. Last I heard, she was in Israel working at a refugee center for Ukrainian children. So how special is that? So this story is for Katya. And this story needs leaves. So here's a pile of leaves I made earlier. They'll probably go all over the computer and it will be a disaster, but here we go. Here we go. It's a pile of leaves. And this story needs a box. And do you remember last week, Aymar had all these friends. It was incredible, the number of people she had. And so I brought a little one. Here she is. Her name is Mercy Brown. Oh, you're giving everyone a wave. Just giving everyone a wave. And where have you been? Have you been on adventures, Mercy Brown? She has. Oh, you've been on a candlestick. You mean maybe like this one? Very like this one. There's a rhyme about that. There would be, wouldn't there? And it goes like this. Up the tall white candlestick went little Mercy Brown. Right to the top. And she couldn't get down. So she called for her grandma. Grandma, Grandma. But Grandma was in town. So she curled into a little ball and rolled herself back down. You don't actually need a real candlestick and a real mouse to do that rhyme. You can do it with your arm and a finger for the candle and another finger for the mouse. And it goes like this. And you can join in if you like, but you don't have to. Up the tall white candlestick went little Mercy Brown, right to the top, and she couldn't get down. So she called for her grandma. Grandma, Grandma. Grandma was in town. So she curled into a little ball and rolled herself back down. Is my picture really blurry, or can you see it all right?
Yeah, I was just going to say that you're looking quite fuzzy.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened. Just talk among yourselves. I will see if I can fix that. Aha, I see what's happened. Come on, I can fix this. There we go.
Yeah, you were all right at the beginning,
yeah.
and then you must have touched something and readjusted your life.
I expect.
Ah, there we go. You're cool.
There we go.
Perfect.
Good. Okay. So let's get on with the story. Mercy Brown was running through the new autumn leaves, looking this way and that, when what did she find? A box. A box. Whoa, that would make a good house for me, said Mercy Brown, but I wonder who lives in it. Could be something scary. Be a cat or a dragon. Be someone rather bad-tempered. Someone that's just woken up, maybe. There's only one way to find out. Knock on the door. So she did. And you can join in, but you don't have to. Knock, 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 knock. Tere, tere, mock. Who will answer when I knock? Knock, 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 knock. There was spectacular knocking from John. It was really loud. But even so, there was no answer. So Mercy Brown took off the lid to have a look. You'll never guess. Empty. It's an empty box. Just the right size for me, said little Mercy Brown. A perfect house. So she settled down inside the house. But she had not been there long when, whoa, running through the long grass came a little hedgehog. And the little hedgehog saw the box and knocked. Tere, tere, mock, who will answer when I knock? Knock, 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 knock. I don't suppose anyone can remember who's in there. Is it one person or two or three? Let's have. David's had a guess. Let's see if he's right. He thinks it's one person. It is. It's Mercy Brown. This is a nice house, said the hedgehog. This hedgehog needs a name. I think we'll call her Evelina the hedgehog. Can I come in here? Said Evelina the hedgehog. Yes, said Mousy Brown. Come and live with me. So they did. Evelina the hedgehog and Mousy Brown, moving up a little bit to stay out of the way of the prickles. But they had not been in the box long when there was somebody jumping through the long grass. Squirrel. I think we'll call this squirrel David, because David did some spectacular guessing. So David the squirrel thought, oh, I wonder who's in here. Knock, 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 knock. Tere, tere, mock. Who will answer when I knock? How many people do you think? 1, 2, or 3? I think 2. Let's see. You were right. Mousy Brown and Evelina the hedgehog. Oh, that's such a cool box, said David the squirrel. Is there room for me in there? Yes, said Mousy Brown and Evelina the hedgehog. Come and live with us. So in went David the squirrel. Oh, they really look cosy in that box. But they hadn't been in the box long when they heard footsteps coming through the forest. And this is where you are going to need sound effects. So you have to make really loud footstep sounds, loud enough that it rings through your whole house. Are you ready? Huge footsteps stamping through the forest. It was big, old, clumsy old brown bear. Whoa, I wonder what's in there, said the brown bear in his big old brown bear voice, and he knocked quite loudly. Knock, 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 knock. Tere, tere, mock. Who will answer when I knock? Knock, 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 knock. Can you remember how many people are in there now? Is it one? Or is it two? Or is it three? Oh, quite a few people have guessed right. Let's have a look. 1, 2, 3. But they hadn't been in the box long. Oh, sorry, but Old Brown Bear said, is there room for me in the box? Oh, you're going to have to vote with your heads. Is the answer going to be yes or no? No, no. What? Said Big Old Bear. Because you are too big, said the animals. Too big, said Big Old Brown Bear. I know what I'll do. I'll sit on top. Good idea or bad idea? Bad idea. But he did. He came down, 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 just in time. Out jumped David the squirrel. Out jumped Evelina the hedgehog. And out jumped little Mousy Brown. And off she went. Back up the candlestick. I'm just testing to see if you've remembered the rhyme. Up the tall white candlestick went little Mousy Brown, right to the top, and she couldn't get down. So she called for, oh no, he's calling for a granny. A granny was no good. How about calling for her, calling for her mama? Mama, mama. But mama was in town. So she curled into a little ball and rolled herself back down. And that's the story of Teremock, Mousy Brown, and the little cottage. And that's the end of that one. And now, I think that's enough piles of leaves for a little while. How are we doing for time? So, we've had a story from Russia, and maybe now we'll have a story from nearer home. And this one begins, like all the best stories do, with a boy called Jack. And Jack is a good name for a story, so let's hear it ringing out through your house. When I say Jack, you say Jack as well. There was a boy and his name was Jack. What was his name? Jack. His name was Jack.
Jack.
And Jack, he was a good boy and he was a kind boy, but oh dear, Jack, he kept forgetting things. He did some really stupid things because he couldn't remember. For instance, when he cooked the potatoes, he forgot that when you cook them, you should eat them. You shouldn't plant them in the ground because they won't grow. Oh, dear Jack. And for instance, when his mum sent him over to the neighbours to get some milk from their cow, he forgot that you're supposed to take a jug to carry it home with. You don't try and pour it into your pocket. Oh, dear Jack. And so when Jack was sitting at supper with his mum, and it wasn't very nice supper because there were no potatoes to go with the sausages, and there was no milk to go in the tea. And his mum, she looked at Jack and she said, look, I tell you what, Jack, I think it's time you went off to look for your fortune. Go and seek your fortune and don't come back until you found a few brains, just a little bit of cleverness so that you remember. So, next day, bright and early, Jack set off. He put on his raggedy old coat and he pulled on his tackety old boots, the ones with holes between the top bit and the sole. And he set off walking and walking. He said goodbye to his mum first. Of course he did. Of course he gave her a bit of a kiss and a hug. And of course she gave him a little bag with some packed lunch in it. And he walked down the road and into the forest. And he walked and he walked and he walked till he came right to the middle of the forest where the trees were tallest. And all of a sudden he felt really, really tired. Do you ever feel like that? You know, you feel tired all at once. All at once, your shoulders hurt, your legs hurt, and your feet are sore. And so Jack, he picked the tallest tree and he sat down under the tallest tree. And he opened that little bag and he got out the little bit of bread his mum had got for him. And when he'd eaten his lunch, he lay back and he closed his eyes and he fell fast asleep. But Jack did not know that tree, it was the oldest tree in the forest, and it was the wisest tree, and it was the best at remembering. It could remember everything it had seen in all the years it had been growing in the forest, which was a long time. And in fact, that tree was so wise, there was more wisdom in the smallest leaf than there was in the whole of Jack's head. And as Jack was asleep, the wind started to blow. And now, I know I'm on this side of the screen and you're on that side of the screen, but I wonder if you could blow hard enough that it shakes the leaves I've got just here. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, blow. Okay, it worked. Should we blow again? 1, 2, 3, blow. And as the wind blew, those leaves came fluttering down. This is going to make beautiful clearing up later. And one of the leaves, and it was a really small one, not much bigger than this. One of the leaves floated down and it landed on Jack's shoe between the top and the bottom where there was a bit of a crack in the shoe. And it worked its way inside until it was right inside the shoe, right up against Jack's foot. And the cleverness and the wisdom that was in that one little leaf, it made its way all the way up Jack's legs, up Jack's body, into his head. And when he woke up, why, he could remember everything. He looked at the forest around him and he remembered all the times he'd been in a forest, all the times he'd been playing there with his friends, all the walks he'd been on with his mum, and he remembered how she told him all about the birds, and there, up in the branch, were 2 little birds just chit-chatting to each other, and he knew, he remembered His mum had told him what they were called. They were called chit-chats. And these ones were going, chit-chat, 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 beep, beep, beep. Leaf? Were they talking about leaves? And he looked at the leaves. He looked at the leaves in that tree. And do you know what? He remembered something about these leaves. His mum had told him that these leaves, they're a bit special. They're like medicine. They're really good if you've got a sore head or a sore ear or even sore eyes. Oh, these leaves, they might come in useful, thought Jack. And he put some in the bag that had had his packed lunch in it. And then he got up and he went off walking through the forest, but suddenly he came to the place where two paths split. He couldn't work out. He couldn't work out which was the way out of the forest and which wasn't. And then he saw that along one of the paths, there were lots of spiders' webs, brand new ones and then old, dusty ones. And he remembered something his mum had taught him, that spiders, why, they spin a new web every day. And quite often, the webs get broken when someone walks past. And then that's all right because they spin another one. But if there's very old spiders' webs, it must mean that nobody's been that way a long time. So that can't be the right way to go, thought Jack. And he went the other way, and sure enough, led him out of the forest. And there was a little path running along beside a stream. And as he walked along beside the stream, Jack remembered, oh, that water, it's going to be so cool. And my feet are really hot. So he sat down and he took off his boots and he put his feet in the cool water. But while he was sitting there in the cool water, he suddenly thought, now, what am I doing here? What was I supposed to be doing? Where was I supposed to be going? I can't remember. And then he looked at his boots. It's the boots. The boots must be clever boots. They're helping me remember. So he put on the boots, and sure enough, he remembered he was Jack and he was going to seek his fortune. And he looked down at the river and there were all the fish swimming along. And his mum said, he remembered his mum had said, oh, fish, you need to follow the fish because they know where they're going. So he followed the fish, he followed them down the river, until they came to a big fence. The other side of that fence, there was this really posh garden. It was the best garden Jack had ever seen. It was full of those beautiful plants and huge trees and lovely shrubs and lawns. And in that garden, there was an enormous palace. Oh, Jack wasn't sure if he should go in there, but stream went there. Stream went right through the fence with the fish with it. So Jack, he opened the gate and he went into the garden. And he walked through the garden, seeing one beautiful thing after another. And then he saw something else even more beautiful. It was a girl. And she was the most beautiful thing in the garden. Oh, she had such friendly eyes. Although they seemed to be closed, and her face was turned up to the sky. And Jack, as he came towards her, he heard girls say, who's that coming towards you? I can hear your footsteps, but I can't see you because my eyes don't work. I'm blind. And so Jack came up to her, walking loudly so she'd know he was there. And he said, well, I'm Jack, and I'm coming to seek my fortune and find some brains. And who are you? Well, it turned out she was the princess of the castle. And Jack, the princess, they got talking about this and they got talking about that. And suddenly, Jack remembered something you probably remembered ages ago. He remembered in his bag, he had some leaves. And he said, I've got something that could help you. These leaves in my bag, maybe they could help your eyes get better. If you like, I'll try. And he crumbled up the leaves and he found a little handful of water from the little stream, and he made it into a beautiful paste and carefully put it over the princess's eyes, one eye and another eye. And they waited for a bit. And then the princess, she rubbed her eyes and she opened them and she could see, just blurrily at first, like my computer screen was a little while ago. But then, plain as anything, she could see. And the first thing she saw was Jack. And I'll tell you what, Jack's face, it was so kind and it was so friendly. And he was smiling at her so nicely that her heart went ba-dum, 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 just like that. And she said, Jack, how about you and I, we get married? Jack thought that was a brilliant idea. And so it was agreed. And so they planned a magnificent wedding. And you're going to have to imagine how amazing this wedding was, how they decorated the whole of the garden with beautiful fairy lights, how they had all the musicians ready to play, how they had a dance floor so that they could dance all night through if they wanted. And oh, you're going to have to help me imagine the food. They had, everybody's favourite food in the whole world. Right here was a big bowl of the most delicious soup. And right here, there was the most enormous wedding cake. It was so beautiful and so delicious. And in the middle, there's a bit of a space. And I'm on my side of this side of the screen and you're on that side. But if you like, you can put your favourite food in the whole world right there in the space, so that we have everybody's favourite food in this dinner. And while the cooks were getting that amazing wedding breakfast ready, the princess, she was getting dressed, beautiful dress, everybody's favourite colour, so soft and silky, so beautifully embroidered. And there was Jack coming towards her in a fine new coat, not a raggedy old one, and a beautiful silk shirt and fine new trousers and tackety old boots. And the princess said, Jack, why are you wearing the tackety old boots? Jack said, well, I have to because they're my clever boots. I can't remember unless I'm wearing my boots, so I can't take them off. And the princess, she understood. She said, in that case, Jack, definitely keep your boots on. And so he did. And they had a wonderful wedding and they lived so happily. And do you know what? If that little leaf hasn't come out of Jack's boot, then they are living happily still. And that's the story of Jack and the lucky leaf, the remembering leaf. And it's a kind of a remembering time of year at the moment. And I'm on this side of screen and you're on that side. So I would like to give you a leaf to be your own remembering leaf. But I can't. So you'll have to find your own and keep that remembering leaf. And maybe it'll remind you of someone that you loved very much. Or maybe you'll remember a happy time you had. But it can be your remembering leaf as long as you keep it somewhere safe, like in your boot. And that's the end of that story. And I have just dropped my watch on the floor, but I see I see that we've got a bit more time. Shall we have one more story?
You've got another story time. You've got 15 minutes.
Wonderful.
Louis on his way to his swimming.
Who
Aren't
is
you, Louis?
he?
Yeah,
Oh,
swimming lessons. So when he goes when he goes dark, that's because he's in the car on his way to swimming, and so have a good swim. Look, hi Louis, how you doing? So we've got one more story from Marion.
okay.
Yes.
I'll try and fit it in, Louis, before you get to your swimming pool. So, this story, I've been working on it with a wonderful woman called Franz Stallings, and it was part of a feast, which is the Federation of Asian Storytellers. And a little group of us, were telling eco stories. And this one's mine. And we've had a story from Russia and a story from England. And this one's from Tibet. And it begins right at the beginning of time. And in Tibet, they say that at the beginning of time, it was Buddha who fixed the depths of the ocean, traced the path of the Milky Way. And as for Earth, he put all the people, all the creatures, just perfectly balanced in exactly the right place all around the Earth. And you can imagine that was hard work. And when he'd finished, he needed a nap. Quite a lot of my stories have a nap in them somewhere or other. So Buddha, he sat under his favorite tree in the gardens of heaven, and he sat like this with his legs crossed and his fingers just so. And he just closed his eyes when there was a huge noise. And it was coming from Earth. All the people, all the creatures, they were shouting, Buddha, we're hungry. Buddha had forgotten the food. No food, nothing for them to eat. And he did not know what to do. So he called all his friends, everyone from all over the courts of heaven. They all gathered together in the garden. Buddha explained the problem and everyone thought and thought. And some people say it was the beautiful Bodhisattva Guanyin that came up with the idea. I know what we'll do, Buddha, she said. We'll make presents. We'll make gifts for the creatures and the people of Earth so they can thrive and be fed. Everyone agreed this was a great idea. Everyone got busy and they were making things and shaping them and folding them up into tiny, tiny little parcels. And it wasn't long before the first one was ready. Lots and lots of tiny little parcels, all joined together on a string. They can put this in the ground, people of Earth, and it will grow into beautiful grains of wheat that can feed them and make bread. And Buddha, he smiled and nodded. And he got his basket. There's his basket, and he said, good. Put it here in the basket on the right-hand side. I'm putting this on my right-hand side, but to you, it might look a bit like the left-hand side because that's the magic of Zoom. And other people have made grains. What have we got? Oh, there was barley. And that went in the basket. Oh, and there were beans. They'll be really delicious. So they went in. And then it was the turn of the Bodhisattva Guanyin. She was really excited. Look what I made. Woo. Look at this. It's so green and so spiky. And everyone said, oh, take that away from us, Guan Yin. It's a stick. It's a weed. You'll never get the roots out of your garden. It's horrible. And Guan Yin, she was a bit sad as she went to Buddha and she said, well, butterflies like it. And it makes really good soup. But Buddha, he just smiled and he nodded and he said, put it over here in the left-hand side of the basket because it's good to have all different kinds of plants. And it turned out that several people had made those wild, riotous, colourful plants that get called weeds. Oh my goodness, there were poppies. They get everywhere. Whoa, there were thistles. And all of those went into the basket. And finally, the basket was full and Buddha said, all right, who is going to take this to Earth? Well, everybody wanted to. Everybody loved giving presents. Nobody liked to presume. Nobody wanted to shout out until suddenly a voice from right over at the gates of heaven said, me, I'll do it. And they all looked. And there was General Yak. Now, let me tell you about General Yak. General Yak, he's the chief of all the armies of heaven. He's a mighty warrior. He wears armor of padded silk, beautifully embroidered. He has a huge helmet with horns like this on each side. That's how grand he is. But General Yak has a terrible secret. His hands are all thumbs. If he tries to make anything, it just always goes wrong. And that's why he hadn't joined in with any other making. And everyone was thinking Buddha's going to put him in his place. Oh, yes. Buddha smiled. He nodded. He said, General Yak, when you take the basket to Earth, put in your right hand into the basket and throw out 10 handfuls of the grain and the wheat and the plants that will feed the world. And then put your left hand in and have 1 handful of the wild, the riotous, the pioneer plants, because it's good to have all kinds of plants. So General Yak, he took that basket, but when he got to Earth, right, 10 handfuls with my right hand. Which one's my right hand? I couldn't remember. He got it wrong. He threw out 10 handfuls of the wild, rampaging weeds and only 1 handful of the grain. And he went up and down and round the earth. And when he got back, suddenly he saw all the weeds, all the plants, everything had started to grow, and he realized his mistake. What am I going to do? Can I pretend it hasn't happened? Can I blame someone else? But in the end, he went back to the courts of heaven. He knelt in front of Buddha. He took off his great helmet and he laid it at Buddha's feet. And he said, Buddha, I don't deserve to wear this helmet anymore because I've made a mistake. And he told Buddha the whole thing. And Buddha smiled. General Yak, you made a mistake. What are you going to do to put it right? And General Yak said, I'll go to Earth. I'll help the people of Earth clear enough space to grow the grain so that they can eat and be fed. And Buddha, he picked up the helmet and he put it back on General Yak's head. And he said, General Yak, you have earned that helmet. The people of Earth will garland you with flowers, they'll love you like a brother for the help you give them. And so it is, from that day to this. In the mountain valleys of Tibet, where no tractor, no wheels can reach, the yak still helps people plough their fields. And from that day to this, when Buddha's walking to and fro across the earth, and he sees a cloud of butterflies hovering over a patch of nettles, he smiles and he nods. And that's the story of General Yak and the nettles.
That was very beautiful. They were all very beautiful. Well, thank you, Marion. That's been a great night.
Well, they're very beautiful people to share the stories with.
And so what have we got coming up? I can see someone we've got coming up with next Friday. I think we go to Greece, and there'll be the spinner who gave me this very fine hat months and months ago. Very fine hat. Brought it all the way across. It's surviving very well on my head. So next Friday's the spinner. Tuesday, of course, and so she'll be at 6 o'clock. Tuesday, of course, will be our international young tellers. But and I haven't told Waleed this, and I better do this. So I'm changing that till 4 o'clock in the afternoon UK time, because I think that might be easier for India, and because of and it'll be and it gets a bit nearer, bit earlier in Greece as well. So I think that might make life easier. So I'm going to change that. Waleed, I'll message you on that. And then on the 19th, we've got, which is which is Sunday week. We've got a very special night because we've got our worldwide story round to be followed immediately by. So that's going to be hosted by Mike Rust. I won't be there because I'm being a poet and somewhere, but in Stroud in England, and that's immediately followed by Mad for the Road, which was a group of tellers that got together originally in Marrakesh, not this last festival, the festival before, and they run around getting together in people's houses, I think, and I don't know. There's all these offshoots to Marrakesh that seem to have grown independently, which is brilliant. Rather like I think I'm a scatterer of weeds, and so that's so they'll be followed. So we'll have World Storytelling Cafe, probably worldwide story round, followed immediately by Mad for the Road. So that's going to be a fantastic evening. I shall have to watch it on catch up. So I'm sure Mike Rust will appreciate anyone coming on to tell a story. To Spinner, I'm looking directly at you, and other people that were here. And a week after the Spinner, of course, Mia's coming on to be our children's storyteller first time. So it'd be brilliant. So good stuff going on.
Did you like my drawing, John? Did you like my drawing of Marion?
I loved your drawing.
I did a sketch
wow.
of her. Here she is.
There she is.
Fabulous. Thank you so much.
I shall send that to John. Shall I send it to? I met you many years ago, Marion. You probably won't remember me, but I'm away up Bonnie, Scotland. Bonnie, Scotland. Although this is Canadian, by the way. Hi, Despina. I don't think I've ever been storytelling with you guys. That's one of the specialities of the house for me.
Oh,
storytelling to children. Nice to see you all for the first time.
So get in touch with me. It'd be easy. john@johnrowe.com and JOHN at johnrow.com. And we'll do a Friday night. Lovely to have a new person for a Friday night. Be fantastic. So get in touch, and we'll work out a Friday night from you. All I'll need, and I must make sure Mia's done this as well, is I'll need a photograph and a bit of a bio.
No problem.
And yeah,
You find me on
short, very
the-
short, that we can put up on our website. And then and also so people can put donations in, which I think they rarely do now, but anyone who wants to give Marion a bit, there'll be a hat at the bottom. So we started that in COVID, so people could get, but we still have the donations hat, so that's linked to your PayPal. But if you get in touch with me, I'll tell you all about it. Meanwhile, thank you very much, Waleed, for flying the magic carpet as always. Thank you, Marion, for some fantastic stories. One more, hello. The spinner has got younger. So there's yeah, so that's younger spinner there. So meanwhile, thank you very much, everyone. Louis has to view. Goodbye. Don't go. Louis dressed for swimming. The rest of you probably aren't. So I recommend not going in the swimming pool fully clothed. Right. Okay.
Thanks, John.
Well,
Thank
bye-bye,
you.
everyone.
That was lovely.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
That
Have a
was
lovely
really
night. Thank you.
fantastic.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Was that okay?
That was brilliant.
Oh, it's fun to do. I